I just read this book on Dietrich Bonhoeffer. It's called Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Martyr, Prophet, Spy. It was written by Eric Metaxas. It's a long book, but a very interesting book, and I learned a lot about this Christian hero of the 20th century. I didn't know too much about him until I read it. He was a Protestant who lived in the early part of the 20th century. He's best known for his participation in the resistance movement against the Nazis in the 1930s and 40s, and above all in his partaking in the plot to assassinate Hitler in the 1940s, which eventually cost him his life. It's a very interesting story. But for me, what really struck me was just reading his entire life. You saw that he was consistent. He was a faithful Christian. He was consistent in his following of Christ. As a young man, he chose to give Christ his life, and he became a Protestant theologian, later became a pastor. He was a missionary. He went to Spain and to England. He wrote a number of books on Christ. He became the rector of a seminary, helping young men to prepare themselves to be pastors. He was a leader of a Christian movement, a new movement in the 1930s in Germany. But above all, he was a man of God. He sought God's will out in daily prayer by reading the scriptures. He took the law of charity to heart and he lived to the full. At that time, the downtrodden were the Jewish people, and he sought to protect them, to find financial means for them. He brought them to safety, but above all, he spoke out against the evils that were being perpetrated against the Jewish people. He lived Christian fortitude. He would not back down when his Christian principles were questioned, and he stayed faithful to that, which eventually led to his death. He was a Christian through and through. He wrote a book called The Cost of Discipleship, and I think the title of this book, The Cost of Discipleship, is a good summary of his life and a good explanation of all Christians. To follow Christ comes with a cost, and that could be with your very life. But if you're willing and ready to follow Jesus, you must be ready to take up the cross and to follow him all the way, even if it means death. Most of us are not going to be called to pay such a price for being Christians, but in our daily lives, we have to look and see, am I being an authentic Christian? Am I following our Lord through and through, all the way? Am I a person of prayer, seeking God's will in prayer and in the scriptures? Do I live the law of charity? Do I speak up and always proclaim the truth? Do I remain faithful to the teachings of our Lord Jesus Christ? Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a disciple of the Lord, a follower of the Lord. He lived to the extreme. Each and every one of us are called to do the same. Let's be Christians through and through, all the way until the end. And that end is eternity with God forever.